So one of the biggest mistakes that I see SaaS founders making over and over again is picking the wrong price for their SaaS product. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to cover 3 different scientific ways of deciding on pricing for your SaaS so that you're not charging too much and struggling to sell it, but at the same time, you're not charging too little either and leaving money on the table. Let's jump in. So the first and most basic way of deciding on pricing is just to look at your competitors. This is called competitor-based pricing. So go out, jump on the pricing pages of your top 5 nearest competitors, look at how they're structuring their pricing. Are they bundling it into different tiers? What are the differentiators between each one of those pricing tiers? How much are they charging? What features are included with each one of those pricing tiers? And then all you're doing is you need to make a simple decision about whether to match those pricing tiers exactly. You charge exactly the same price for exactly the same thing. Or do you want to charge a little bit more? Maybe you've got slightly nicer UX. Maybe you've got some other features. Maybe you're able to be a bit more generous with the usage. Are you able to offer more value at the same price point? Because then you've got a bit of a competitive advantage. You could also go the other way, match what your competitors are doing, offer exactly the same features at exactly the same price points, and then dial it back a bit so you're charging slightly less than your competitors are for each pricing tier. The idea behind that is that when your customers are doing their research and they're weighing up whether to go with you or your competitor, they can see that you're offering exactly what your competitor is, but at a slightly lower price point, so they can save a little bit of money by going with you instead of going with a competitor. So the second option here is called cost plus pricing. And the way it works is really simple. You look at how much it will cost you to serve a particular customer, and then you add a little bit extra on top for your own margin, your own profit margin, and that's how you arrive at the final price that you charge your customers. Now, in reality, this isn't used very often because most SaaS verticals already have at least one competitor already that's established and entrenched. So you've got a competitor to base your pricing around. The only time you'd really use cost plus pricing is if you're in a completely new field or a completely new industry. You don't have any competitors, or at least any close competitors, and you need to charge something. So this is a way of deciding how much you should charge so that at least you know you're going to cover your costs and you've got a profit margin built into your pricing. Now, you're probably not going to stick with cost plus pricing for very long. As that space matures, more competitors enter the space, they're going to be charging different things. And so you'll want to maybe switch over to competitor-based pricing once that space becomes a little bit more competitive. Or you might want to switch to our third option, value-based pricing. So the difference is competitor-based pricing, you're looking around at all your competitors. With cost plus pricing, you're looking internally at your own cost base. With value-based pricing, you're looking at your customers and seeing how much value is being created for that customer by using your product. Let's say, as an example, let's say you're charging $100 a month because that's what all your competitors are charging. So we've started off with competitor-based pricing. But because you've been talking to a lot of your customers and you realize that, hey, actually, they've hired 2 people to do this job and they're still using Excel or spreadsheets. And so it's actually costing them about $500 a month to solve that problem that your product solves for only $100 a month. Now, theoretically, you could charge $200, $300, $400, even up to $500 a month to use your product, and they'd still be happy to pay it because they're currently paying $500 a month to solve that problem. So value-based pricing means I could charge $200 or $300 a month is probably appropriate, because then they're still saving a lot of money by switching to your product, but you're capturing a much greater proportion of the value that you're creating for your customer. Now, this is kind of difficult to do in reality because you need to go and have lots of conversations with customers. You need to really understand them and their business, how they're currently solving problems, how much time using your product is saving them, how much extra money it's generating, how much extra value is being created. And that's not something you're going to figure out overnight. It will take you months and months and months, and a lot of conversations and a lot of feedback, questionnaires, surveys, all that information gathering stuff to be able to figure out how much value you're creating. The other thing that you're going to need to figure out as well is how much value am I creating for this particular segment of customers versus this particular segment of customers. You might well find that there's a certain group of customers that are getting a huge amount of value out of using your product and are therefore willing to pay a much greater price to use your product than this other segment, and therefore you might have to pivot your entire business towards focusing on this particular segment rather than this one if they're willing to pay a lot more money and you decide that it's worthwhile for you. So there you go. Those are 3 different, more scientific ways of deciding on pricing. In reality, you probably want to start off with competitor-based pricing, but you want to move to value-based pricing as quickly as possible. And that involves a constant cycle of talking to customers, gaining insights, running experiments on your pricing to see how that impacts conversions, and then adjusting your pricing based on the results of those experiments until over time you're able to capture more and more and more of the value that's being created. If you want to learn a bit more about the different pricing models that you can use to capture more of that value, go and check out the next video where we'll be talking about pricing models for SaaS.